The night sky above Earth was calm, filled with countless stars, yet deep inside the silence of space, machines were always listening. Earth had long learned that the universe was not empty. It was filled with whispers, signals, and secrets. In a dark control room on Earth's orbital station, young Officer Daniel sat at his console. His eyes were fixed on a faint blinking light on the screen. At first, he thought it was background noise, just another echo from the stars. But then the signal repeated, the same pattern, the same rhythm, over and over again. "Commander, you need to see this," Daniel said nervously. His voice carried across the cold metallic room. The commander walked closer, tall, calm, his eyes hard from years of service. He leaned down, staring at the strange pulse on the screen. It was not random. It was communication. The signal looked like a cry for help, a distress message, repeated in a simple universal code. It carried a tone of desperation, like voices calling from the void. Humanity had received messages before, but this one was different. It was clearer, sharper, almost too perfect. Across Earth, the news spread quickly. Scientists argued that it could be the first true contact with another intelligent species begging for aid. Politicians debated if it was safe to respond. Military leaders feared it was a trap, but the people, they were fascinated. They wanted answers. They wanted to know who was calling. In the Great Council Hall, leaders of nations and colonies gathered. The holographic signal pulsed in the air like a heartbeat. "We cannot ignore this," said one scientist. "If someone is suffering out there, it is our duty to respond." But an admiral shook his head. "And if it is bait? If we walk into a trap, it could cost us thousands of lives." The debate went on for hours. Hope against fear, trust against suspicion. But finally, a decision was made. Humanity would answer the call. They would send a fleet, both soldiers and scientists, prepared for rescue but ready for war. As ships were prepared, the story spread across every screen on Earth and Mars. People watched as massive carriers, sleek cruisers, and fast escorts rose from the shipyards, engines glowing, hulls shining against the void. Humanity was moving as one. Daniel, the young officer who first noticed the signal, found himself assigned to one of the ships. He stared out of the viewport as the stars stretched before him. His heart was heavy with questions. "Are we really going to save someone?" he whispered. "Or are we walking into something we don't understand?" The fleet moved into the deep, crossing light years with silent determination. Weeks passed in the void, but the signal never stopped. It grew stronger the closer they traveled, guiding them like a trail. Yet there was something unnatural about it. The message never changed, never shifted, never broke, as if a machine was repeating it endlessly. Inside the fleet, whispers spread among the crew. Some dreamed they were rescuers, heroes who would bring light to strangers lost in darkness. Others feared they were lambs heading straight into the slaughter. But no matter what they thought, the engines burned forward. There was no turning back. Finally, after long silence and endless stars, the first signs appeared. Broken debris drifted across the void. Shattered pieces of ships unknown to human design. Metal twisted and melted, floating like ghostly remains. The fleet slowed, scanning every piece, searching for survivors, but finding nothing. Daniel stood at his post, heart racing. "Commander, no life signs, nothing but wreckage," he reported. The commander's eyes narrowed. "Keep scanning. The signal is still ahead." The closer they came, the more the crew felt it. An unseen pressure, a sense of being watched. The signal pulsed louder, brighter, like a heartbeat dragging them deeper. The alien structure finally appeared on their scopes. It was massive, hidden near a dying star, shaped like a black fortress floating in the void. The signal was coming from inside, repeating over and over. Humanity's fleet had reached the source, and yet, silence surrounded them. Too much silence, the kind that made soldiers tighten their grips and scientists whisper in fear. The commander stood tall on the bridge, his voice steady but low. "We came here for peace, for rescue, but something is wrong here." His words hung in the air like a shadow. No one knew yet, but the trap had already been sprung. The human fleet drifted forward in the cold silence of space. Dozens of ships moved in formation, their engines glowing faint blue against the endless black. Inside the flagship, the crew kept their voices low, as if the universe itself was listening. Daniel sat at his station, eyes locked on the monitors. The signal had grown stronger, almost too strong. It pulsed like a drumbeat inside the ship, steady and mechanical. He could feel it in his chest, like it was more than sound, almost like a whisper trying to reach into his mind. The commander paced slowly across the bridge. His boots echoed on the metal floor. Every officer could sense his unease. He didn't trust this mission. He had seen too many battles, too many clever enemies, and this signal felt like bait. Around the fleet, smaller escort ships scanned the void. Their sensors stretched in every direction, looking for movement. The space around them was filled with broken debris, strange shapes that floated like corpses in the current, pieces of alien hulls, shattered weapons, fragments of ships that had fought and lost. Still no survivors, Daniel reported. His voice cracked slightly. He hated the silence. It felt wrong. Too empty, too clean. The science team aboard another vessel sent a message. The wreckage shows signs of energy burns, unknown technology. Whoever attacked these ships destroyed them with precision. The commander's jaw tightened. Then why leave the wreckage floating? Why keep sending the distress call? He asked the question everyone feared. The answer was simple, but no one wanted to say it, because the signal was not a cry for help. It was bait. The journey deeper stretched for days. The fleet followed the signal across the dying star system, passing fields of ash and burned-out moons. Every hour, the sense of being watched grew stronger. Crew members began to whisper about shadows moving in the dark, about shapes glimpsed just beyond the scanners. At night, when Daniel tried to sleep, he could still hear the pulse of the signal in his dreams. It was as if the message had become part of him, pulling him forward, calling him. He woke drenched in sweat, his hands shaking. His bunkmate told him he was talking in his sleep, whispering strange words he didn't remember. The commander noticed the tension spreading through the fleet. He ordered stricter routines, combat drills, and constant scans, but nothing eased the pressure. The silence of the void pressed heavier with each passing hour. Finally, the fleet reached the edge of the system. The dying star loomed ahead, its surface boiling with fire. Around it, the scanners picked up something massive, a structure unlike anything human eyes had seen. It was black, angular, and vast, drifting like a fortress carved from shadow. The distress signal came from inside, strong and steady, echoing across the fleet's speakers. It sounded almost human now, too human, a repeating voice that begged, "Help us! Help us! We are dying! Please!" Daniel's skin crawled. He turned to the commander. "Sir, it sounds like us, like someone copied our voice." The commander's eyes narrowed. His instincts screamed danger. "Prepare all ships, weapons on standby. No one goes in blind." But the science team protested. "We can't just ignore this. If there is even a chance that life is inside, we must investigate." The commander gave a slow nod. "We'll investigate, but we'll do it carefully." His words were steel. As the fleet closed in, strange readings filled the monitors, energy spikes, gravitational shifts, faint signs of movement that vanished when scanned. The structure looked dead, but it breathed with hidden power. The first landing teams prepared their suits, loading weapons and tools. Daniel watched as soldiers checked each other's armor. Their faces pale, their movements sharp. They were trained, disciplined, but even they felt the weight of the unknown pressing against them. As shuttles launched toward the alien structure, the fleet tightened formation, weapons armed, shields raised. The void was too quiet, the silence before a storm. From his station, Daniel whispered under his breath, "This is wrong. Something is waiting for us." And he was right, for hidden in the shadows, just beyond the human scanners, alien eyes were already watching. Their trap was almost ready to close. The shuttles glided silently toward the alien fortress. Their small engines flickered like fireflies against the endless dark. Inside, soldiers sat shoulder to shoulder, their faces hidden behind helmets. No one spoke. Every man and woman felt the same weight pressing on their chest, the weight of being the first to set foot inside a mystery that smelled of death. Daniel watched from the command deck of the flagship as the shuttles moved closer. His eyes refused to leave the monitors. The alien structure grew larger with every second. Its surface was jagged and sharp, covered in black metal that reflected no light. It looked less like a building and more like a wound in space. The distress signal echoed again, louder now, bouncing through the comms. "Help us! We are dying! Help us!" The words looped without pause. The commander clenched his fists. His instincts screamed that the voice was not real, but still he had to know what lay inside. When the first shuttle reached the docking bay, its lights cut across the surface, revealing massive doors that slowly groaned open as if welcoming them. No power source was detected, yet the doors moved with unnatural ease. A dark corridor yawned before the landing teams. "Landing complete," came the soldier's voice over comms. "No life signs, no movement. Atmosphere inside is thin but breathable. We're going in." The feed from their helmet cameras streamed across the fleet screens. Soldiers stepped inside, their boots crunching against dust that had not been disturbed for years. The corridors were tall, too tall, made for creatures larger than humans. The walls pulsed faintly with lines of light, veins of some unknown energy. Daniel leaned forward, whispering to himself, "This place is alive." The deeper the soldiers went, the stranger it became. They found chambers filled with empty pods, cracked glass, dried fluids staining the floor. Whatever once lived there was long gone, or hiding. In one room, alien symbols glowed faintly, written across the walls like warnings. No one could read them, but every soldier felt the meaning in their bones. Danger. Suddenly, one of the soldiers froze. "Commander, we found it," he said. His camera turned toward a central chamber. At the heart of the fortress stood the source of the distress signal, a machine, tall and skeletal, pulsing with light. It was connected to dozens of wires and tubes, and in its core, a holographic projection played the same desperate message. The commander's voice was sharp. "Is there anyone alive?" "Negative, sir. It's just a machine. The message is artificial, completely automated." A chill spread across the bridge. Daniel's stomach turned. His worst fear was true. The signal was not real. It was a lure, a bait placed carefully to draw them in. But before the commander could order retreat, something changed. The machine's lights flickered. The hologram shifted. The desperate plea for help turned into something else. The voice distorted, deepened, until it was no longer human at all. "Welcome, humans," it said. The words echoed through the chamber like thunder. "You have come far. You have answered the call, and now you will feed the fire." The soldiers aimed their weapons, hearts pounding. "Sir, it knows we're here," one shouted. Across the fleet, alarms blared. Sensors lit up with sudden movement. Dozens, then hundreds of alien ships uncloaked from the shadows surrounding the fortress. Their sharp forms glistened like predators circling prey. They had been waiting all along. The commander stood tall, his voice like steel. "All ships, battle stations, prepare for attack." Inside the fortress, the soldiers scrambled back toward the shuttles, but the corridors began to shift. Walls closed, floors trembled. The fortress itself was alive, and it was sealing them inside. Daniel's chest tightened. His worst nightmare had come true. The distress call was not a cry for help. It was a hunter's whistle, and humanity had walked straight into its jaws. The moment the alien voice echoed across the chamber, the soldiers felt the air change. The walls groaned and shifted as if the fortress itself had awakened. Panels slammed shut, sealing corridors, floors split apart, forming barriers that forced the humans into smaller paths. The entire structure was alive, and it had been waiting for this moment. "Fall back to the shuttle, now," the squad leader shouted. Boots pounded against the metal ground as the soldiers rushed back. Their lights cut through the thick shadows, but the way they came through was already closing. Massive doors slid into place, trapping them deeper inside. From the flagship, Daniel's voice shook. "Commander, the fortress is sealing them in. We're losing their signal. They're being cut off." The commander's jaw tightened. His eyes scanned the tactical screen. Around the fleet, alien ships decloaked one after another. Their sharp hulls glistened with strange energy. Their weapons glowed, ready to strike. The fleet was surrounded, caught in a perfect circle. "All ships, battle stations." The commander barked. His voice carried steady resolve. "Shields up, weapons armed. We fight our way out." The first alien blasts came like lightning, green fire tearing across the void. One escort ship vanished instantly, its hull splitting apart in a shower of molten metal. The rest of the fleet returned fire, beams of light, and missiles cutting through the dark. Space lit up with war. Inside the fortress, the soldiers fired at the moving walls. Blasts scorched metal, sparks flew, but the structure kept shifting. The alien machine at the center pulsed brighter, its voice echoing again. "You are prey. You will not escape." One soldier cursed under his breath. "This isn't a station, it's a trap built for war." Daniel's heart pounded as he watched the battle unfold. Alien ships moved with deadly coordination. They struck like wolves, fast and precise, but the humans fought back with raw determination. Missiles roared, fighters darted forward, and capital ships held their ground. The void filled with fire. On the bridge, alarms screamed. Multiple hull breaches, shields at 60%. Officers reported. Still, the commander stood tall, his eyes never leaving the enemy. He had seen traps before, he had seen ambushes, but never had he seen an enemy so certain of victory. "Send the message across the fleet," he said coldly. "We came here for peace, but if they want fire, then we give them fire." The words burned into every soldier's heart. They knew retreat was not an option. They knew surrender meant death. Humanity's only answer was to fight. Meanwhile, inside the fortress, the soldiers reached a sealed door. One of them planted charges. The explosion rocked the corridor, smoke filling the air. The door bent, cracked, and finally gave way. They stumbled forward, trying to reach their shuttle, but more shadows moved in the distance, tall figures with glowing eyes stepping from the walls. "Contact! We have hostiles!" a soldier shouted. Gunfire erupted, red blasts cutting through the dark. Alien figures shrieked, their voices metallic and piercing. The soldiers fought desperately, every step feeling like the last. From above, Daniel's voice whispered as he watched their signals flicker. "They're trapped in there. They won't make it out." The commander's face hardened. "Then we hold the line out here. We buy them every second we can." The fleet tightened formation, human ships fighting back to back. Their guns roared in unison, cutting through alien waves. For every human ship lost, 3 alien ships burned. The void filled with wreckage, fire, and screams carried on silent channels. But still, the enemy pressed closer. Their numbers seemed endless, their hunger unbroken. The humans were fighting inside the jaws of a predator, and the trap was closing tighter. The trap was sprung. The aliens thought victory was already theirs. Their ships circled the human fleet like vultures around dying prey. The fortress itself pulsed with strange energy, sealing soldiers inside and feeding the enemy ships with power. On the flagship, the commander stood unshaken. His eyes burned with the fire of a man who had faced death before. "They want us to beg," he said quietly. "But humans do not beg." His voice rose, sharp as steel. "Transmit this to every ship. Earth's answer is fire." Across the fleet, his words echoed. Pilots tightened their grips, soldiers steadied their weapons, and engineers pushed their reactors to the limit. The humans had come for peace, but peace was denied. Now only war remained. The first counterstrike came fast. Fighters poured out of hangars, swarming like hornets. They darted between alien cruisers, unleashing missiles and pulse fire. Explosions rippled across the void. A massive alien frigate split apart, its pieces tumbling like burning meteors. Daniel's heart raced as he relayed targeting data. His fingers flew over the console, guiding weapons toward enemy weak points. "Direct hit on their shields," he shouted. "Target exposed." Moments later, a human cruiser unleashed a volley that tore the alien vessel in half. But the aliens were not weak. Their ships moved with deadly precision. They fired beams that sliced through space like scythes. Another human destroyer vanished in a flash. Its crew's final screams cut short. The loss stung, but the fleet pressed harder. Inside the fortress, soldiers fought to survive. They pushed through waves of alien figures, glowing-eyed hunters that rose from the walls. Blaster fire lit the corridors, metal cracked, bodies fell, yet step by step, the humans forced their way back toward the shuttle. One soldier, bloodied but unbroken, shouted over comms, "We're not prey. We are human, and we will burn your trap to the ground." His words carried through the static, fueling the others with rage and strength. Outside, the commander gave the order no one expected. "Bring the heavy guns online. Aim at the fortress itself." Officers turned in shock. "Sir, our people are still inside." But his eyes were cold. If that fortress feeds them power, it must fall. We will not survive if we hesitate. The fleet obeyed. Massive cannons charged, glowing with lethal energy. A thunderous volley fired, beams tearing into the alien fortress. Its surface cracked, chunks of black metal breaking apart. The signal wavered for the first time, the repeating voice sputtering into static. The aliens shrieked across the comms, their voices distorted with fury. They pushed harder, desperate to protect their lair. Ships rammed against human cruisers. Boarding parties launched. The void became chaos, fire and steel colliding in silence. Daniel felt sweat run down his face as he worked the systems. Every second mattered. Every shot counted. He thought of Earth, of the billions watching the stars, waiting, hoping. He whispered under his breath, "We won't die here. Not like this." Then came the moment that changed everything. A squad of soldiers inside the fortress reached the core. They planted explosives across the alien machine that had lured humanity. Their leader, voice steady despite the chaos, reported, "Charges set. We'll give them back their signal, but this time it ends in fire." The countdown began. Outside, the commander's voice carried one last command. "All ships, pull back. Brace for detonation." The fortress pulsed violently, its energy rising. Alien ships scrambled, but the humans kept firing, holding the line with everything they had. And then, with a flash brighter than the dying star itself, the core exploded. The shockwave ripped through space. The fortress split open like a broken shell. Alien ships caught in the blast shattered instantly. Fire and wreckage spread in every direction. For a moment, the stars themselves seemed to burn. On the flagship's bridge, silence fell. The distress signal was gone. The trap destroyed. Humanity had answered, and the answer was fire. The explosion of the alien fortress shook the system. For a moment, the void burned with fire, wreckage drifting like sparks from a dying flame. Human ships reeled from the shockwave, alarms blaring, but their formations held, battered yet unbroken. The aliens had not expected this. Their trap was perfect, their prey was cornered, yet the humans had destroyed the very heart of the snare. The loss rippled across the alien fleet. Their coordination faltered, their strikes slowed. They were not machines, they felt fear. On the flagship, Daniel stared at the monitors. His voice cracked as he whispered, "It worked. We hurt them." The commander stood tall, his face grim but steady. "No, Lieutenant. We did more than hurt them. We showed them what it means to fight humans." The battle shifted. Human ships pressed forward. Guns roared. Missiles streaked. Fighters darted like blades of fire through the enemy ranks. For every ship humanity lost, they destroyed two more. The void lit with burning wreckage, and hope returned to human hearts. Inside the surviving alien ships, confusion spread. Their prey was not weak, not soft. These humans did not cower. They fought like wolves, snapping even with broken teeth, a predator that refused to die. "Enemy formation is breaking," Daniel reported. His hands moved across the console, highlighting weak points. "They're pulling back to protect their command ship." The commander's eyes narrowed. On the tactical display, one massive alien vessel loomed above the others. Its hull was layered with black armor, glowing with rivers of energy. "Their flagship," the commander muttered. "Destroy it, and the rest will scatter." The order spread across the fleet. Human ships tightened formation, focusing their firepower. The flagship of the enemy loomed like a mountain, but humans had climbed mountains before. Alien cannons fired, beams slicing across space. A human cruiser took a direct hit, its hull splitting apart. Still, the survivors rammed their broken vessel into the alien ship, detonating in a burst of fire that tore through its outer armor. The sacrifice opened a wound, and the fleet poured fire into it. "Target exposed," Daniel shouted. His voice carried both fear and triumph. "All ships, concentrate fire," the commander barked. The sky burned. Weapons hammered the alien flagship. Missiles punched through armor. Beams cut across its spine. The massive vessel shuddered, energy surging wildly across its frame. Then, with a soundless scream that echoed only in the minds of those who fought, the alien command ship split apart. The effect was instant. The rest of the alien fleet wavered. Their formation broke. Ships turned in panic, some fleeing, others firing blindly. The predator had become prey. On the bridge, cheers erupted, but the commander raised his hand. "Hold the line," he said firmly. "This battle is not over. Not yet." Still, the truth was clear. Humanity had turned the tide. Against impossible odds, in the jaws of a perfect trap, they had struck back and broken their enemy. Daniel leaned back, exhaustion flooding his body. He looked at the battlefield, wreckage glowing against the dying star, and whispered, "They thought we were weak. They thought we would kneel. But we showed them what it means to be human." The stars, once silent, now carried a new truth. Humanity had survived the trap, and more than that, they had fought with such fire that even their enemies trembled. The battlefield was quiet at last. Smoke and wreckage drifted across the void. The dying star glowed weakly, lighting the ruins of ships that would never return home. The human fleet floated scarred and broken, but alive. Daniel sat at his console, hands trembling. His screen no longer pulsed with the repeating signal. The machine that had lured them was gone. The fortress destroyed, the trap shattered. Around him, tired voices echoed across the comms. Names called out. Survivors reported. Losses mourned. The commander stood in silence on the bridge. His eyes scanned the stars. He thought of the soldiers who had never returned from the fortress, of the crews who had given their lives to crack open the enemy flagship. He carried their weight on his shoulders, yet his voice, when he spoke, was steady. "Transmit to Earth. Tell them. Humanity stood. Humanity fought. Humanity won." The message spread across the fleet, across the long distances of space, across the colonies and worlds that had held their breath, waiting. It carried not only victory, but a warning. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was not weak. On alien worlds far from the battle, the news spread as whispers. The species who had built the trap had believed humans would break. Instead, they had been broken. Across the galaxy, others listened, some in fear, some in awe. A simple truth became clear. Humans were dangerous when cornered. Weeks later, the survivors returned to Earth. Their ships limped into orbit, battered hulls scorched. But the sight of them sparked cheers across every city. Crowds filled the streets. Their voices rose in a roar that echoed like thunder. Humanity had reached into the jaws of death and returned with fire in their hands. Daniel stood by the viewport as Earth came into view, blue and green against the stars. He thought of the soldiers who had not returned, of the voices lost inside the fortress. His chest ached with sorrow, but also pride. He whispered, "We kept our promise. We answered, and we burned our answer into the stars." The commander's final report was carved into history, his words etched into memory. "They lured us with false cries. They thought us weak. They thought us prey. But we showed them the truth. If you try to trap humanity, we will tear down your walls. If you strike at us, we will strike back harder. We will bring fire until none remain." Generations later, children would still hear the story, the tale of the fake distress signal, the trap that nearly ended them, and the humans who refused to die. They would remember how Earth answered not with fear, not with surrender, but with fire. Among the stars, enemies would whisper to each other when they spoke of Earth. They would tell their young never to underestimate humans, never to test their resolve, for kindness might bring peace, but betrayal would always bring war. And so the legacy was written. Humanity had been lured into a false cry for help. But from that day onward, the galaxy knew the truth. If you tried to trick the humans, if you tried to break them, if you tried to make them prey, Earth's answer would always be the same: fire.